Welcome to the playground.
You think you've seen it all?
Neuwerts FM, leading your marketing to where the magic happens.
Ready for transformation?
It might not work.
That's why I do it.
Who says that doesn't work?
And here is your host, Ingo Stoll.
Hello and welcome everybody to episode number 14 of Neuwerts FM, the podcast for routine killers and new marketing. I am your host, Ingo Stoll, and I'm grateful to present you another international episode in which we will talk about aspects of future internet and impacts of game-changing technologies like peer-to-peer. Our special guest this week is author, keynote speaker, coach, and social geek Jesse Stay. So thanks for taking your time, and we are now about to leave the comfort zone and turn Neuwerts to where the magic happens.
Kick off. Kick off.
Yeah, I will be absolutely honest with you. This episode contains heavy stuff. We definitely get more geeky and visionary as usual. But as a matter of fact, new technology is often the driver for the changes of behaviors and markets and communications. Thus, it's important to have an eye on what's coming next and what is on the horizon. So within our talk with Jesse Stay, we're gonna dive deeply into the impacts of peer-to-peer technology and cryptography. And for those of you who are not so familiar with this technology, let me give you a quick introduction what peer-to-peer means. The peer-to-peer or P2P systems, as they are called, is an architecture that was probably popularized by the file-sharing system Napster, originally released in 1999, you may remember that. And normally a central web server hosting, controlling and deploying data is what the standard is. So you have decentralized clients and you have a central server. For example, if your browser requests a website, your browser is the client and the website data comes from a central server that delivers the data. A peer-to-peer network has no central server. It is a distributed application architecture that partitions tasks and workloads between their so-called peers, which are equal participants in the network, and performance is only possible if all members work together. So, maybe this principle sounds somehow familiar to you, does it? And if so, you're absolutely right. One could call that social if you want to, because it carries collaborative and democratic elements, and it has no central entity. So the concept has inspired new structures and philosophies in many areas of human interaction. In such social context, peer-to-peer, as a meme, if you want so, refers to the egalitarian social networking that has emerged throughout society, enabled by internet technologies in general. So today we want to focus, for example, on Bitcoin. This cryptocurrency is something we want to explore because it's a subject that has to do with peer-to-peer and goes much beyond, but it's based on peer-to-peer. And we want to get an understanding of that and especially have a look on what the impact is. So Bitcoin is probably one of the most prominent applications and examples for peer-to-peer. I personally have seen people paying with Bitcoins already on the last CeBIT exhibition, and there was a Bitcoin machine to be seen as well, but I haven't tried it myself so far. But of course, Bitcoin is a representative of a digital currency, and these currencies, these digital ones, they raised my attention in quite a few contexts. And I would just want to mention 4 of them to underline that it's really relevant that you have a look on these. This is what I think. So first of all, do you remember the Linden dollars? Linden dollars occurred actually with Second Life, the virtual platform. And it was a virtual currency within the Second Life ecosystem. And it is one of the things where you are just a close step far away from virtual goods. So virtual goods, virtual currencies, virtual goods became a big industry when we talk about gaming. And this was maybe the first context I got an eye on virtual currencies. So then Facebook came up, and Facebook actually started, not very well known probably in public, but you may have heard of it. They started and still have I think they still have the Facebook credits. And Facebook credits were a virtual currency that enabled people to purchase items in games and non-gaming applications on the Facebook platform. And there we got the first time a link between virtual currency and real one, because $1 was the equivalent of 10 Facebook credits. So the barriers between what is virtual, what is real, actually got turned down. So I personally, and this is reason number 3, I studied economics. These topics are of a natural interest for me. And within the financial crisis in 2008, we all witnessed what happens when the trust in the established financial systems and currencies degrade. So you start asking yourself maybe, what are the alternatives for the established systems? So this is a very interesting discussion, and in these discussions actually they lead to number 4. Actually, we as the agency, as Neuwirts, we do have customers from the financial industry. So we're naturally engaged in discussing the future and possible answers to the changes we see within the branch. And this topic of future banking is one favorite of my close friend Frank Sonder from 4C. So we talked more than once about digital money and disruption on the financial industry. For example, what may happen if Google starts, or when Google starts, a proper banking service. So to sum it up, more than relevant to me is having an eye on what happens in this virtual currency sector, in this sector of future financial and banking solutions, and all is based on peer-to-peer technology. So I think we all need a certain understanding of the fundamental basics of this peer-to-peer networking, and of course, for example, get an understanding of how bitcoins work. And this is exactly where an expert like Jesse Stay comes into play. He speaks of himself as the social geek. He studies and learns about new business altering paradigm shifts in technology and shows businesses how to embrace these paradigm shifts. And he's one of the guys who talk to the machines and they listen. Jesse started as a software developer, programming computers since he was 10 years old, but he's an expert on social business as well, especially on Google+. And we met on the social media marketing world this year, and I was lucky to get the chance to have a little conversation on Bitcoin, future banking, and the impact of peer-to-peer networking. So let's transition over to this week's Inside interview with Jesse Stay.
Insights.
Good. So we are back here at Neuwirts FM, and probably my last guest for today. is a very special one. Jesse Stay is here with me. Jesse, how are you?
Doing great. It's great to be here, Ingo.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Actually, you were one of the reasons why I came here, and I'm very happy to have you on the podcast. So, you are very well known for Google+. I mean, Google+ for Dummies. I have a signed copy I'm pretty proud of.
Oh, thank you.
You shipped to me. So, but it's not going to be the topic we're going to go in for here now, because we want to have a glimpse of the future, maybe.
Awesome.
And we want to talk about Bitcoin. So, for those who don't know anything about Bitcoin, so what is it?
Okay, so Bitcoin, at a high level, Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer virtual currency that is based on what's called a blockchain. And the idea is, right now, the U.S. dollar, my mind just went blank. A million different currencies are coming to mind. The euro. I knew the euro.
The yen. We have some others.
The yen was coming to mind because we just talked to someone from Japan. I know the euro. So the euro, the U.S. dollar, the yen, I wanted to say franc, but that's long gone. All of these different currencies require central entities, require banks, require governments and other institutions to verify that funds are there to represent that the money exists. Yeah. Well, what Bitcoin tries to resolve is a concept called proof of ownership or a proof of work. And the idea with Bitcoin is it links. It takes transactions that occur. It takes if you get money in Bitcoin, it takes that money and it stores it in encrypted form on what's called the blockchain. And the blockchain is a worldwide public ledger, if you think of an accounting ledger, that exists on every single person. A copy of it exists on every single person's machine who uses Bitcoin, basically. And then the different machines sync with each other to ensure that an accurate and up-to-date version of that ledger is on there. So in essence, I mean, it gets much deeper than that, but in essence, the idea of Bitcoin is that you don't have to have a central entity to prove that funds are there, because every single person in the world who is using Bitcoin has a copy of that the funds are there, and as long as a majority of those people can prove that those funds are there, that it can't be manipulated. So you've got the potential for a currency that is even more secure than typical currency, like you have the euro, like you have with the U.S. dollar and other currencies out there. So that's the basic premise of Bitcoin.
Okay. So so we pretty much into the subject of like future banking. Mm-hmm. So and I don't know whether you know that, but in the audience, but Google, for example, is already they have a banking license for the European market, and many of the banks, of the traditional players, they are definitely in fear of what will happen if Google just starts banking. So this might be another topic, and not really on the Bitcoin, but so what do you think is going to be the future of banking?
So in terms of Google technically is already banking. They have Google Wallet right now that allows you to pay people using a Google product. They've invested in a product called Ripple, which is a similar virtual currency to Bitcoin, uses cryptography and cryptocurrency in a similar manner to how Bitcoin works. So Google's already in this industry, something that banks really should be worried about, and there are some disruptions occurring there. But it's much bigger than that. What we're leaning towards is this idea of the blockchain, and I call it the chain, because we went from
the metrics, the chain.
Yeah, so I mean we went from the web and now we're moving towards the chain because we're actually looking at a disruption to the entire internet and the World Wide Web as we know it. The previous web, or the current web, is based on a client-server model where you have to have servers that control information and identify who owns what on the web. Well, if you remember back when I was talking about Bitcoin, the concept of Bitcoin is to prove who owns what funds through this public ledger. Well, what if you, instead of proving funds, you use it to prove other things? There's a alternative cryptocurrency that's basically a copy of Bitcoin protocol called Namecoin, which is used to identify ownership of domains in the .bit namespace. And the idea is that instead of the Internet Consortium of Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, identifying who owns what domains on the web, now Namecoin has the potential to replace ICANN as a central entity, and now it can be an entirely peer-to-peer DNS model without any centralized control regulating that. It'll all be up to the democracy of the protocol and all the different clients agreeing on that being the protocol. So you got DNS, then you got TCP/IP. You've got right now, from a file system perspective, you've already got peer-to-peer databases. You got Hadoop. You've got similar databases to that are all peer-to-peer. You have peer-to-peer file systems like BitTorrent at the moment. In the past, there's been no way to, without a central entity get involved, identify who owns that data, though, until you bring in a server. Well, let's say, what if you somehow could start storing in encrypted fashion your ownership info of which files are yours, and store files encrypted on BitTorrent, and then store the private key to those, to access those files on a blockchain, on a ledger of some sort that's entirely peer-to-peer. Yeah. Well, now you have an entirely peer-to-peer file system that in the cloud that you don't need a centralized server to host. It can all be across everyone's computers in a similar manner how BitTorrent works, but now you can have a way of identifying that you own it without having a need of a server to authenticate that. So Dropbox is being disrupted from that. It's similar, but I mean, I think this eventually will I think you've got Rackspace could be disrupted. Amazon Web Services could be disrupted from stuff like this. The entire web as we know it is about to go from client server to peer-to-peer, and that's going to completely change the way everything happens on as we know it on the web.
That sounds, I mean, somehow far away, and on the other hand, pretty close, you know?
Yep.
Because we know how things go and how they speed up.
We could be within 5 years of something like this happening.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask, you know? You see, like, within 5 years.
It's always hard to say, but the technology is already there, being proven by on the currency side by Bitcoin and via cryptocurrencies like Namecoin. Devcoin is another interesting one, and we're trying things out and we're proving things. As that happens, then it's going to be a matter of people starting to use these in real life use cases, and once that happens, I'm thinking we actually could be within 5 years of starting to see some significant movement on this. Maybe not entirely, but at least seeing movement.
Let's stick to the Bitcoin thing just for a few seconds. Who's standing behind Bitcoin?
So behind Bitcoin,
we have no central, you know, authorities anymore.
So yeah, there is no central authority. In fact, we technically don't even know who created Bitcoin. A guy or an entity named Satoshi Nakamoto created a paper that laid out the idea of this blockchain, the ledger, and they posted it online in a forum, and then they participated in helping to develop the protocol. After that, they disappeared. No one ever actually met them in real life. No one knows if it's an individual or a group of people. Newsweek thinks they know who it is, but there's still no proof on who this is. So even the originator, we don't really know who did it. So it truly is an entirely democratic model of an economy, basically, of currency. So and that's okay. The benefit you get is because there is no control, because it is entirely democratic on everyone agreeing, or the majority of people agreeing that this is how the protocol goes. There really is no need for regulation. There's no need for centralized entities or businesses to manage this. Instead, I think this will lead to lower taxes. It will lead to smaller governments around the world, a much more community-based infrastructure, and we're moving towards a different type of society, I think.
I mean, this is a big vision, but it's more than thrilling. And well, just on the Bitcoin thing, I mean, if there's no authority, there might be the danger of what happens, who cares in case something goes wrong. I mean, we have seen some reportings on, well, hacking the thing, and I mean, it's digital, so it can always be threatened. So what do you think about that? Do we just is it worth taking the risk? Is it something that's in the system naturally, so you have to live?
Very good question. Right now, it's as we call it in America, the Wild West, and it's taking out guns and shooting people and stealing money from the bank and stuff like that. I don't do any of that, but there are a lot of hackers out there that are out there that you really need to be aware of and protect your money, diversify into multiple exchanges, protect it. If you have more than a certain amount, print it out into paper form, which you can do with Bitcoin, stored in a safe deposit box. The way it will happen, though, I really see, I mean, I mentioned this disrupts the banking system. It disrupts similar types of institutions. They can actually adapt if banks decide to start accepting Bitcoin on top of regular currency. They have infrastructure in place to start protecting things like this. They have strong security teams to stay on top of it. They have insurance and other things to protect it. So I think we're going to head that direction eventually, where either banks or someone like Google, or if the banks don't respond, and other institutions are going to start to provide a safer option, safer solution for it. So it's not always going to be like this, but right now you do have to be careful. It is a kind of a scary place out there, and you're gonna you may lose some money on it as you get involved. But you can also make a lot of money too, with the potential of its growth.
Yeah. So I think this is a very important point, a statement you made, just like what might be the future of the banks. Because if we lose the intermediaries on each and every section, like we've seen it in the music industry, the labels just gone, and everything is going to be peer-to-peer. So this is what I understood. And if everything is peer-to-peer, I mean, it's a great vision for community life, for the social media and all the digital thing. So I would embrace this vision. I mean, I would go for it. This has a lot of potential. And talking for the banks and others, so you might suggest they switch their business model from transaction-based business to make things secure? Is it?
Yeah. So yes. I mean, from the bank's perspective, it's really a matter. They can treat Bitcoin just like they do normal currency, and allow you to store it in form, and they can offer credit. They could offer credit on it. They could offer insurance on the funds and stuff like that. Offer interest. They could do all that with Bitcoin just as well as they do any currency. They're not right now, and if they don't, I do think they could see disruption from other players in the market. I think I would be worrying if I were a bank right now, because I do see the potential for people starting to move more and more to this as a worldwide currency, that I can do transaction with someone in China just as easy as I can do transactions with people in America. And I would definitely be watching this if I were a bank or a financial institution of some sort. This is something we're looking at. It's inherently a social currency too, though. This is we're talking about a new model of trust, where people are. I mean, a lot of these currencies Dogecoin is an example. It's an alternative cryptocurrency to Bitcoin. A lot of people are using it to donate things to people. And I'm seeing the word donate used a lot within these models. And I think we're actually moving to an era where potentially payment, the idea of payment is going away, and we're moving more towards tipping and donating based on performance, based on the way people are acting, the way people are performing, as a result of kind of this more democratic model of currency. So, and I could go much deeper into that as to exactly why I think that, but that's the direction things are moving towards, if my theory is correct.
Well, I mean, I promised we might extend this, but not today. So you are definitely invited to go a bit deeper into the details and, just like schedule your vision a bit more in details in a different episode here on this podcast. But
I'd love to.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, because we are talking about the future. Maybe in 5 years' time. Maybe sooner, maybe later.
Maybe 10 years.
But we're talking about vision, and this podcast is about, routine killing and stating different perspectives. So this is definitely a different perspective you open up here. So I'm very happy. And actually, I'm not a bank, so I can be, free of fear.
If you're a bank, contact me. I'll help you out with embracing this.
We definitely know that there are people who think forward and try to change perspectives even within banks. So there's no hope lost, but it's time to act, and it's time to get into these topics. And what I didn't know, and what I'm very happy about to find out here, is I know you're a Google Plus expert, but you're a great visionary guy. So
thank you.
This is even more worth to me, especially. So we will continue that.
Thank you.
In the meantime, if somebody wants to get more, information about you or actually follow you, so where would you send people to?
Okay, so you can follow my blog right now at stayinalive.com, stay letter N alive.com. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/stay, Google Plus at plus.google.com/plus Jesse Stay, and Twitter I'm at Jesse on Twitter.
Yeah, so thanks, man. It was a pleasure.
Great to meet you.
Whoosh! Yeah, so what do you think? Heavy geeky stuff or relevant vision? Please let us know on our blog at neuwerts.fm. and tell us whether you like to get more high-level and meta-perspective insights from time to time. And of course, if you like what you hear, give us a review on iTunes, and all mentions and some eye candy will be there for you within the Neuwerts FM show notes. And for me, it was my first week after the vacation and the 2 weeks off with my family, and it took me right to one of the banking capitals in Europe. I had a workshop on digital transition in Zurich in Switzerland, so lots of input, and definitely stuff for more episodes if you like to. So I say for now, bye bye, take care and stay social.